Pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple, I'm a pineapple, I'm sweet, I got a beat, just look at me, what do you see? Pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple, I'm a pineapple, I'm sweet, I got a beat, just look at me, what do you see? Pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple, I'm a pineapple, pineapple,
All right, that was Pineapple Owl, because it's a wow, and it's Woo Woo Wednesday. We are back with Mr. Hans, and yeah, it is a classic. We got to get Paranoid American back on. Great individual, the one that made that, Thomas, and he just they successfully launched their Illuminati comic book just yesterday or the day before. Quite awesome stuff.
Nice. I need to check that out.
Right? Yeah, that's why we got to get him back on and take a deep look into it, because it's the sort of stuff that we're into and going to be talking about today with Alchemy, the symbols of it all, the symbology. And there's a lot of that going on also in the mainstream, from losing their mind, shaving the heads, all the blue hair, I guess, apparently had to go. They no longer want to be identified as such. And you're saying now there's a lot of masks appearing.
I've seen a lot more masking all of a sudden. So we're kind of reversing in. It's almost a predictive programming of sorts. I mean, give a shout out to Ryder Lee and Jay Widener and Walter Bosley and Mark Devlin. They just put out an amazing documentary about programming, and mind manipulation through movies as a medium. And it's one thing in the movies of the 70s, but flash forward to today, and how many different mainstream channels are we being distracted by? I mean, you even go to something like the Sphere in Las Vegas and you walk into that thing and my God, they're map flashing the most amazing, not only visuals, but subliminal messaging. Yeah. It's like if you ever watch the U2 video, it's interesting because that stuff's coming at you at 64 frames a second. So you don't see it when you're sitting there. But because the cameras are only recording at a fraction of that, 24 to 32 frames per second, you do see it. And it's a bit mind-blowing because it's like, what are we being programmed? What are horror movies all about? I mean, we just had this interesting case in Seattle of, a woman going after her father with an ice axe. And so it's just like, where is this triggering? Where is this programming coming from? That's all I'm going to ask. I'm not partial to either side of it. So it's really an
right. It's question. Just trying to be ahead of the curve in the good way and ride that wave. And one thing that's been going up and up is the crypto major bull market launch. And it's like, I got super depressed. So this is why I don't drink. It was like a year ago now or something. It was right at the center of the scam Bankman fraud whole thing when the market crashed. And it was like, he was a huge owner of Solana and I love Solana. I was big into it. And I was like doing day trading. So I'd like sell it to like buy back in, sell, buy back in sort of thing. And I like sold the bottom, but I was like, it was the one time I drank and I don't remember selling the bottom. Thought I was still holding like a nice 40 Solana, but no, sold like 35 of them for like $15 USD each, which is just like so pitiful because now it's worth $220 US. Currently, where Solana is again back up to all-time highs.
Wow, 219.07. That's crazy.
So yeah. I sold like 40 or 35 of them at like 15, and for like months I thought I still had them because like I buy back in, but the one time I drank, don't remember it, panicking over scam Bankman fraud, and that kills the soul right now. But
drinking can be fun, and then the day after, you're like, "What did I do? Was I really dancing on tables, breaking glasses?"
Don't crave and sell while intoxicated. That is the lesson and the moral of that story, right there.
Speaking of intoxicated, I think your camera is a little drunk right now because you are really blurry.
Right? Look at that. Like, won't focus.
I think it was because you put your phone up to it.
Oh, good call. Yep, did that. Maybe it'll come back. It'll come back at some point. All right, but in the meantime,
yeah. So symbols in the media, and there was a lot of really interesting manipulation. Obviously on all sides. I always say I'm politically homeless, so.
Best way to be, right? Then
it's been very interesting to watch, and whatever the outcome, it's like we all got to kind of shape shift and mold into a new form of what we want to express, who we want to be, how we want to make things work for us in whatever circumstances are around us. I think that's the positive message to take away from all this.
Absolutely. And the cycles of the system and how they play it, how they do it, their long games, and right. So the Trumpster fire, we're a week in now, 1 week since last week. Some of his cabinet is starting to take shape, and it's like for someone that ran on being pro anti-war and ending the war,
he's still stacking his cards. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, he's put a few pretty how do you call it, Warhawk neocons in like the wrong positions of like Israeli ambassador and I think it's Secretary of State.
I honestly haven't been paying any attention to it.
Been not good.
I've been moving for the last 2 weeks, so oof.
Right, but look like you're getting settled. We got the lights up this week.
I finally, I pulled them out of storage today. I was like, all right, I'm doing a bunch of interviews coming up, so I got to make sure that I have lighting correct. And obviously, my cage comes with me, so. But yeah, no, I'm in a cute little Airbnb while my house that I've been renting is going through 5 to 6 weeks of massive construction, reconstruction, water damage in the kitchen, laundry room, bathroom, crawl space under my office. Wow, I went in there today. It looks like you're on the set of E.T. Everything's all zipped up in bags.
Well, at least it's getting done and not turning into black mold. And
that's the key. I've lived in so many places here in Portland that, I mean, it's because we're in the middle of a rainforest, so the humidity here is all year round, and people don't realize. It's like living on Hawaii. My God, you take stuff to Hawaii and it disintegrates because A, it's so humid and it's moist all year round, but B, you get all that salt wind, and so it's like your bicycles, like everything.
Oh, the rust, right? The alchemy right
so
there
quick
breaks
from the
it
salt.
all
it's
down.
Crazy, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, and yeah, you literally are in a rainforest where you live. People
don't realize that.
Have to understand the environment to deal with it, compared to where I'm at, the exact inverse, the high northern plains of Alberta, Canada, freezing dry. But
I do love Athabasca, man. It's beautiful up there.
This is true. Beautiful everywhere, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I miss Alberta. That was a good fun time.
You'll have to come back someday. We'll do the full road trip up from and go through Montana and check out the Montana megaliths at the same time.
Yeah.
Stiggs wants me to go down and stay with him for a couple weeks and do a little road trip here in the spring. We're talking about it, so might actually try to raise some money, fly down to Palm Springs, and then with Stiggs drive up and might come see it because we'll be in the area, right? So
wow, yeah. Anyway, I didn't finish the plug earlier. It's called A Clockwork Shining. It's by Ryder Lee, Jay Widener. Features our good friend Walter Bosley as well as Mark Devlin. If any of you guys are familiar with his work, it's really amazing. He gets into symbology in movies, mostly the James Bond franchises, but the most of his work deals with a lot of the conspiracies going on in the music industry over time. And Mark's very prolific, researcher and speaker on that stuff. But yeah, check it out. Jay and Ryder obviously need, as much promotion as they can. So we're trying to get it out there. It's available on Amazon. Anyway, that's my plug. Speaking of programming and, what we were talking about, it's such an interesting time right now. Where I live in Portland, it was like walking around the day after. It looked and felt like everybody had lost their dog. I mean, it was just like this real somber, okay, we're going to get on with this. And that was a good approach, I think, because I think we all need to, figure our ways, as I said earlier, to get on with this. So, Bernie's stuck in the text.
Sorry, just on a phone. One moment.
Yeah, I've slept on the floor many a times. Funny. Just reading some of the comments here.
All right. Sorry about that. Back to, this will be a short one because I will have to run here to pick up Amber from work in a little bit. But while we are here and while we got you, quickly, I did mention that, so Mike Huckabee being the Israeli ambassador, saying that that the West Bank, Israel annexing the West Bank of Palestine is on the table. It's just like, how, like, the most ridiculousness, but there's still hope, because inversely, he did put Tulsi Gabbard as the director of national intelligence or something like that's like the highest person out of any alphabet agency, and she seems pretty based. Yeah, interesting things. It's interesting.
I've always liked Tulsi. I mean, she's solid-headed. She's from Hawaii. I lived there on Maui. She's from anyway.
Yeah. The other one, John Ratcliffe, that's the former, under Trump's first administration. He was like the one solid dude that was the former head of the DIA or DNA, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi's new spot. But Trump put him as the head of the CIA. And
interesting.
So in 2020, when the Biden laptop dropped, and there was like all like the FBI, CIA,
51 people signed off on this.
They all signed off saying it was Russian disinfo. Radcliffe was the one guy, and he was like the overall head, which Tulsi now is, that said, no, this is bullshit, that's real, and stayed true and honest. So it's like those positions, that's a pretty big shakeup. And then also Matt Gaetz or something like that. Gaetz, as the Attorney General, which is, so it's like...
Wow, he's stacking some interesting cards there.
Right? Like, it's all over the map, and it's interesting times, and it's like Tulsi Gabbard, head of, like, director of...
I'm curious of all of his military choices, neocons or warhawks, whatever we want to call them. I'm wondering how many of them actually served in combat, because
right. Well, and Tulsi Gabbard 100%
that's what I was saying.
3 tours.
Yeah. And so
shout out Godheart Guardian.
I think people putting people in those positions that have actually seen the theater of war versus chicken hawks who have not.
Exactly. When Trump called out Liz Cheney about that.
Yeah.
The actual
I think that's a better way to look at it, because they have experience. They've been there. They've seen the horrors and the triumphs, right? Not giving any advocacy toward war. I think, we should all find a way to live on this rock comfortably together, but we're not quite there yet.
For sure. And that hopefully there is more dialogue under Trump. Like the first administration, he actually traveled North Korea, and that it was
ballsy and mind-blowing. Yeah.
Right. And it was John Bolton and the other neocon he had,
twisty mustache guy,
the former CIA guy. top of my tongue, but anyways, Mike
Not
Pompeo,
Comey.
and that
Comey was
he
F.A.,
rejected Mike Pompeo, which is very good. And right, so it's like, who knows what will happen? But back to Godheart Guardian's comment, yes, Nima is absolutely amazing. His channel, Dialogue Works, and he's constantly interviewing.
Who is Nima? Sorry, let me write this down.
Nima, his name, the YouTube channel is Dialogue Works.
Okay.
And he's absolutely awesome for geopolitics. He's interviewing like people like Scott Ritter, who former weapons inspector, military person that actually travels to Russia, Chechnya, talks with them, trying to de-escalate, and some Iranian English professors, all sorts of different people, quite good, and like former CIA. What the heck is his name? It's always on there. It'll come to me. But yeah, great channel, great stuff. I like it a lot. And hopefully it truly is a shakeup. We will only know if Alex Jones somehow becomes the press secretary at the White House, at which point we truly live in a full clown world. We are very close to the singularity at that point where idiocracy is like merging with AI, the quickening. It's all happening at once.
AI idiocracy, right?
Yeah. Like,
that would just be Comedy Hour 101. Yeah, I don't even know what to think of that.
Right, like
I don't know what to think of any of this. It's just, this is
what can we?
The last half of my adulthood has been some of the strangest years I've ever experienced in my life. Yeah.
Right, I think everyone, like, it's just where is it? And the pendulum keeps going back and forth to the extremes, right? And it's like we're at that point, I think, right now where it's got the most mass, but it's right in the center, and it's like, which way is it gonna go? What's it gonna knock out as it swings? And right, trying to ride the momentum of balancing the craziness of like the polarity of the world and the crisis, and get peace, dialogue, not separation and more.
So it's interesting you say that, because I've recently, I'll be speaking at Conscious Life Expo in February, and so I want to add some sort of conscious piece to my lecture, and I'm also being asked to speak at a conference. It's undisclosed at this point, but I'll be lecturing about, again, consciousness and healing. And so it's like, okay, how do I look into symbology as healing and ancient symbols of healing? And so these are the things that we miss in a lot of our movies, right? You've got Doctor Strange. He's creating magic for defense or offense, but you never see him healing himself. In the video games of Star Wars, right, you can heal yourself by either using force healing techniques or drinking the Bacta. That's some good stuff, the Bacta. But you heal yourself, but you never actually see it being performed in the movies, where these amazing characters have these abilities, but we never see it.
Except for Mandalorian. I actually finally got access to like Disney stream and started watching it a few weeks ago.
I guess Grogu does heal himself.
Yeah, Grogu, right? Yeah. Like the mini baby Yoda, but not Yoda. He's the second Yoda, right?
Grogu means the child. I don't remember what language, but no, I guess you're right. There is a depiction of it, but it's far and far between, right? And so, all these amazing movies that come out, we never see, healing or anything that brings, healing or joy to people, basically. Joy, that's a horrible word because everybody's been overusing it recently. But
no, well said.
We can definitely, there's definitely something about ancient symbology that was used for healing, like the yin and the yang, or the Om symbols,
absolutely,
or the chakra colors, rainbow colors, and chakra points and chakra symbology. And
right,
so
because it's frequencies and it's cymatic frequencies, and the Om is actually a full Mandela cymatic frequency geometry, and that it's these full energies that do somehow heal spiritual energy, life energy, or whatever it is, but it's what's currently missing in the West and suppressed and ignored and like
I think
attacked.
it's missing. It exists everywhere, but it's missing in
like academia,
mass formation, in a sense. We haven't made critical mass for it to be effective. We're getting there. 15 years ago, I couldn't have the conversation with you about energy. Hey, we're energy beings. People would look at me all funny going, you're one of those hippie new agey guys. Oh, yeah.
Like, it's been too taboo, but it's like, if you real physics, like, yeah, we run on literal energy, bioelectricity throughout, and also the spirit, the soul. Where's the consciousness? They're finding now memory is not even stored in the physical brain for a lot of it. And well,
you've seen Einstein's brain, right? Have you not seen the slices of his brain? You're on mute.
So I'm not sure if I have.
So he had very little actual brain mass. The rest was fluidic. And so what you're saying is very interesting, because it's like, where is memory stored? Do we have an aura of our own Akashic record floating around us that we're, downloading from and putting into? I wrote a story when I was in high school about dreams, and I pictured them in my mind as shards of glass. And so the fresher the memory in your mind is, the larger the shard. And you would float through it, and you would remember that section of time. And then you would float into another shard, and then eventually you wake up. But the further down the spiral you go, the smaller the shards get, because the older your memories are, right? And so I've kind of always looked at dreams like being shards of our own reality, because when you dream, you remember your dreams almost as prolific as you remember real life. And so there's got to be something there where we're surrounded by our own, storage device or battery cell or something that we just cannot see. It's
higher
part of
self,
that neutron, proton, or neutron electron transfer. One goes into the ether and comes back with information. It's like, well, what's in that ether? Because we're not able to go in there, but maybe this is where some of our, our own physical Akashic records exist. Who knows?
Right. Well, it's dream time. It's like universal all time. It's essentially heaven and hell, but in the duality, because it all exists together. And like you said, it's like we're in the moment are different shards, they're different fractals of time, of the now, and the memories and the moments. But that's how individuals are able to raise their consciousness, where you go into from our third dimensional conscious into your fourth dimensional, what they try to claim subconscious, but really you're getting out of body, and then you're starting to be able to do your consciousness over time space, the quantum, the fourth dimension, right? So then you're astral projecting, you're connecting with source or the Akashic or whatnot. And that's just to
astral
finish
projection
it off,
brings up an interesting point, because astral projection is, you projecting your consciousness or your energy being, or, potentially even your physical being, into different dimensions, realms, time, space, planets, solar systems, galaxies, universe. A question has come up recently for me about, do I believe that, extraterrestrial life is from other planets or stars? Sure, I'm imagining, we can't be the only ones here. Obviously, as Carl Sagan always put it, if we find a piece of bacteria in space, then there's life teeming in the universe. And we found a bacterial transfer in the Viking missions in 1975 on Mars, and water, but we keep going back there saying we just found water for the first time. And we've also found,
even though there's ice caps that are shrinking, thus turning into water and atmosphere.
Yep. And on the first Hayabusa probe, not the second, but on the first one, the gel pack that was sent back to Earth had bacteria on it. So
but all
right
these
there,
things
we can't be alone. But then the question is, how do we traverse, time and space? Well, if in Buddhist philosophy we're able to astral project, isn't that us becoming an interdimensional being to some other civilization? So are the entities that are here interdimensional was the question. And it's like, well, if we have the ability to astral project or free form into somebody else's body in another world or another, system based on these philosophies that it's in their literature, the question is why couldn't another race do the same thing here? Like we talked about the other night, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about like these radio signals being received from space. I kind of got ridiculed a little bit, it was in joke, but Mike Barra kind of laid into me. He's like, why would alien races be using radio signals? Well, we're using them.
Exactly.
And so what are they sending us? And so then all of a sudden we've received all these shortwave bursts. This was like 2017 and 2018. NASA's saying, well, we've discovered this synthetic DNA that we are trying to use to discover alien life. And so it's like, okay, so we've got physical nuts and bolts transportation across the universe, which could be sluggish, could be, faster than whatever. There's the laws of momentum. There's, the faster than light technologies. There's one way to travel, nuts and bolts. We have astral projection. This is interdimensionality. So a lot of the interdimensional beings that we've discovered here on Earth, or that people have had experiences with, could also be from here on Earth. It could be somebody astral projecting. And so all of a sudden you have an interdimensional being coming, giving you messages, similar to what you see in the Golden Child. This child goes into meditation and he projects himself to Eddie Murphy's character in a tree floating, and basically is calling for help, but he can only project himself. And so this is an astral projection. But then we also have the ability of, projected panspermia, where, you latch some DNA in a spore on the side of an asteroid and it crashes into a water-bearing planet. What are the odds of that? And all of a sudden life happens
here many times.
Correct. And so all of a sudden life happens because of that interaction, that alchemical event. But then we also have this weird technological event. Well, if we could send the blueprint of ourselves across the universe or across the galaxy or even across a solar system and say, hey, here we are. This is what we look like. Here's our synthetic DNA. Please give us a consciousness. And we, then we can project into that consciousness. Boom. Here we are, they're walking amongst us, looking like us, smelling like us, acting like us, but it's like a telepresence robot, but a telepresence consciousness through, it's not even technology in a sense. It is, but it isn't, I don't know where to describe it. It's almost a transhuman.
It's like a demigod technology or higher dimension.
It's an avatar. It's an avatar. That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah. It's literally an avatar. And so, oof. That gets into some sticky subjects. So yeah,
it really does. But it's also, it gives dimensionality as like a scaling system and explaining a lot of different people's experiences in the everyday today, as well as ancient writings, as well as a lot of religious and holy writings, right? So it's like, it's been intentionally put as taboo and like suppressed by the mainstream of ignore that side of your reality. It's crazy. You're crazy. No, take these drugs. And the drugs often, right, it's like they'll either give you this huge downer, which takes you down to this like a two-dimensional consciousness where it's only react, like it's emotional reaction. It's either fight or flight. It's like good or bad, right? Like destroy or live, one or the other, where we're naturally three-dimensional, where you're also then making your own choice out of it. You think about it, and then when you're on a higher fourth dimension, then you start thinking, how do we affect others? What does this do in time? How will this affect in the future, in the past, right? So it's like, that's one of the reasons, or it's part of the machine cogging us down constantly, of making sure every day when you wake up, you forget who you are, that you don't recognize that you are this eternal soul, this being that exists throughout all of space-time. You are powerful. You have connection to this, and get yourself to that highest elevated conscious vibration, right? And that's why people will have a coffee when they wake up, a stimulant to try to get yourself lifted up more. But if you're taking that coffee and you're also taking a downer so that you're down on the second vibration, you're stimulated to act, react only, be triggered, but never think about what you're actually doing and how it affects her, and you're surrendering your third dimensional right of self-will and only then reacting and being triggered, feeding into this machine, into the matrix of control. And that you have to remember your eternal spirit, soul, and connection to creator and, you know, the matrix of space-time that we all exist through every day.
That's why getting off of those SSRIs is key. I'll be vulnerable. I witnessed some horrific events during the revolution in Nepal, democracy 1990, and it was pretty bad. And because of it, I went into PTSD. And when I first moved to the States, I had a relapse, and my family kind of hauled me away to OHSU, and they put me on Zoloft of all things. And
right, like right there. And
this is around the time that Phil Hartman was murdered by his wife. Sad, you know, rest in peace, Phil. We loved you on Saturday Night Live. His wife was on like cocaine and Zoloft binge and went after him. Regardless, so here I am on Zoloft. I'm in my apartment, and I have no appetite. I can't sleep. I can't work. I can't exercise. I have zero sexual desires. And I felt like, you know, I was in this zone, and I had to take myself off of it.
Absolutely.
Like,
right.
I can't feel like this. I wasn't, you know, I didn't agree to the program in the first place, but all right, I'll give it a whirl to see if it brought me down even more, and it was very depressing. And
it's literally a depressant. It's draining your energy. It's doing exactly that. And I feel like
we're boosting your serotonin. The hell you are,
right? And it's oh man, and that's exactly why I myself am in the middle of the battle of finally getting off of the Suboxone, which is an opiate, which is that downer as well. The exact same thing. They put me on that. Oh, you're off opiates now. No, that's an action. Doesn't get you high, but you're still down. It's still a downer. It's still an opiate 100%. And that's been the driving force of myself being like, no, I need to get the F off of this. And why, after being stuck at 6 milligrams that they put me on for 5 years, that over the last 3 months now I'm down to a 0.5 of a milligram. So that's like, I guess 92
power, man. Power
down.
To you.
Yeah, that's
you'll get there.
Yeah, before the end of the year, I will be fully off of it.
Start going to the sauna, man. Do some like serious hardcore sauna detoxes.
Oh, I don't really talk about it, but I do. And behind Tesla, there is a sauna in Bernie's basement.
That actually was the one thing that almost every house I went to when I lived in Calgary had. They had a sauna. And they had the weird plug-in-the-wall hose that you can vacuum your rooms with.
Yeah, the central vac. I have both of those.
What in the hell is that? However, when I lived in Hawaii, I saw one of the most amazing systems ever. And so it was in this multi-million-dollar house off of Baldwin Avenue. My girlfriend at the time was doing, she was a cleaner for Airbnbs, and this was one of the properties that she worked on. And this thing had the most amazing cleaning system. So it would open up these vents in the wall, and it would blow out a puff of dust. And then it was like a Dyson vacuum would suck everything back in. And you're just like, wow, that was quick. And it's spotless in here, because in Hawaii, you get a lot of the red earth dust that comes in and all the salt sand that's on the wind. And that was like the most amazing cleaning system I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure it cost, an arm and a leg, but it was super amazing and efficient.
I like the sounds of that, while simultaneously, I'm sorry, I'm a bit distracted and mind blown at what the F is this? Demonology, Illuminati, Egypte, and Ranubis fat in the year 56713 QA in the year of your Lord 22 or 2022 Nosfera Millennium Alphabet Vampires Hominis. Like, yet this alphabet thing is like, it's something I've kind of been decoding in alchemy, and like that's like barcode style wild like this is just
Someone has had too much fun with graph paper.
I don't know if there might be something to that. Interesting to look into.
Yeah, send me that. Actually, I like symbols like that. I like
right,
to see
but
what
it's
I'm
like,
looking at.
but it says vampire, but it's like, is that like demon language potentially as well? Like with the Solomonic seals and all of that. Like it's very
Well, that was the whole key with Solomon's seals, and it's interesting that he didn't really have any healing seals either. I've been plowing through that book over and over again, and it's just like, okay, so all these are either to entice angelic beings or ensnare demonic beings, and so it's almost like a Ghostbusters unit. You know, you're drawing them in, and then you're storing them in this sealed Merkaba energy of sorts. You know, almost like the messages in water. I mean, in a sense, that's kind of what it is. You know, you project that spell onto the water and then you freeze it, and it creates either, you know, beautiful harmony or chaos.
Right? And it's like to bring back a shard of ice and a shard of time, and like, are you freezing and summoning a demon or entity on these like shard crystals of time, bringing it in and then melting it into our reality, and poof, you've got that physical energy entity now in that time space, right? Very, very deep metaphysical occult stuff right there.
Yeah. I don't only talk about the drop.
Oh, well, here we go. Archangel Raphael, the healer. Metatron.
Yeah, these are all Solomon's. A lot of
right?
these are Solomonic.
So there's only one healer, and that's Raphael. You got a cross on each corner going in, and then what looks like a freaking circuit. Like that looks like
the double sun of gold. Yeah, okay.
Well, and also the right-hand rule of currents and like circuitry. That's pretty,
but it's balanced. That's the interesting part.
It's completely balanced, right?
Yeah.
Big time. Yes.
When I have my Uriel in the morning, I feel wise.
Need more of Rigel, the peacemaker, as well.
Interesting. Vanity. Here I am. I'm beautiful.
Right? Very, like, the merciful. That's
I wish I had my library behind me. I'd pull out a book by, I think it's Jacek Jerka. No, that's not who it is. I gotta look this up real quick.
Very those are pleasant signs, pleasant sigils, especially to look at.
Book.
Right. Well, Digital Revolution, good question. In that, definitely the star forts and like how most of them are made out of either these advanced ancient bricks, geopolymer blocks, and huge megalithic mixtures, or like silicon-based geology and rocks, that they are essentially giant frozen waveforms and the actual cymatic patterns that any water now going in them or energy going around it would then resonate back out as those forever solidified
Structure, interesting.
Yeah, structured geometries.
It's like you were saying Om earlier. You ever see those sand plates when somebody like will chant Om and it creates the vibration of the
Oh, right. The
cymatics, yeah,
frequency
insane. So
geometry of
there's something
Ohm.
going on with that with star forts as well, whether it's where they're
Exactly.
located or a lot of them are located next to waters. So interesting.
So now look at this Atlantean alchemy symbols. Also saying something Egypt, also looking very similar, just a little bit more advanced than those vampiric Illuminati ones.
Yeah, what's with the squares?
Right? Like interesting stuff.
You're boxing your dark energy. What is this? This is some book. Yeah, interesting.
Yes, sir.
With fake water-stained parchment paper.
Oh yeah, of course, with the digital scroll background, the reeds.
I've used that texture before on many a flyer.
All right, well, makes it look.
So this is all Sudoku magic, which is interesting because this is not just European, but it's like Sudoku's.
Thank you, Dave's Waffle. Oh, shout out Dave's Waffle. Sorry,
99 cents. Let's go.
Right. Well, that's a euro. I'm in Canada, man. Shit, that's like $5. Just kidding. But it's definitely more like
$4.99. It's close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sudoku, you're saying like it's magic squares, it's sigils, it's like both Wiccans, alchemists, like Orientalists everywhere, like throughout the world, use these magic square styles and in their spell casting and ciphers and whatnot.
There's the Templar skulls as well with the Tenet, Erebus, Opera. And it like spells out. I can't remember the name of there's an actual, it's in my book. But anyway, there's an actual square that they found on skulls. They're like the promised skulls. And,
really?
This is where the movie Tenet gets all of its names from, right? So you have Arepo, you have Opera, which is the opposite of that. Tenet, reversal is Tenant, right? And then what are the other two? I can't remember what the other two are, but hold on.
Right. Yeah, right. Grab that book, and we'll have. It's a good way that we got to end this. Tonight's got to be a short episode as I have to go, but let's shill good Hans's epic work and writings that everyone should buy, especially if you're interested in this stuff.
So it's called Sator's Square. Yeah, look this up. Sator's Square projected on the screen for a second.
Well, you got to show your book now. Come on, and let people know where they can get it. Your book says.
So I've got 3 books out now. The first was, Drupa Legends and Lore, connecting the ancient secrets of Bhutan, China, Nepal, Tibet, and Sirius. Deals with a lot of my upbringing in Nepal and some of my studies in Bhutan for my thesis, getting into Buddhist cultural mysticism. My second book is The Magic of Symbols. It's pretty much introductory to symbols from past, present, and going into the future with a lot of the new AI symbology. And so this is also a good little read, introductory into symbols and where they originate from, and basically how we are finding some of the ancient symbols still being used today in corporate logos and sigils that surround us all over the place. And then my third book I just came out with is called The Lost Mysteries of Kemet, The Land Before the Greeks, which is basically Egypt before the Greek occupation in the 300s BC. The Greeks literally rewrote 90%, maybe not as much as 90%, but a good chunk, more than 50% of Egypt's history prior to that to kind of reflect their own. And then the Romans came in after that and, wrote their own history into the Egyptian lore. And then basically the Arabs came in after that. And then all of a sudden we have Egyptology, and it's only based off a lot of that knowledge. And
Right,
so
so it's like
there's
a fraction of 1% is actual accurate, and
right.
that several, like, there's like 5 or 6 complete resets, rewritings of history, like since the burning of Alexandria, and even before that, and like after and throughout.
Oh, but
It's
the
just
information
so
has just been
ridiculous.
so diluted. It's unbelievable, but it's all there if you know what to look for. And so I've been fortunate enough to go to Egypt twice. Loved it. I suggest anybody who has, the time and the finances, get on a tour, get on one of the, chematology tours or something, similar, and do a private tour of Egypt with, 30, 40 other people. You'll have the most amazing experience ever. There's one
We
coming
have
up
to
with
go
Timothy
with
Hogan in
Timothy
February.
Hogan. Yep.
Yeah,
We
it's
have
coming up
to
in
go.
February with Patricia Iowan Lehman, who runs the Kemet School of Mysticism. And she's doing a tour with Timothy Hogan, and it's going to be an amazing tour. It's all about the private access to sites, because if you go as a standard tourist, for instance, if you go to the Great Pyramid, you pay $300. They give you pretty much 20 minutes in the Great Pyramid. You're 10 minutes in the Grand Gallery and 10 minutes in the King's Chamber, and that's it. But on a private tour, they open it up to you for 3 hours, and they open up the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, and the subterranean shaft. And it's yours to explore. It's the most amazing experience. And you get to go sometimes into the Osiris shaft. You get to go into the Serapeum, a lot of the other pyramids. Just going there as a general tourist, it's very difficult to do because it becomes very expensive. But if you get on groups, they have group rates. And so it becomes affordable for everybody based on what you're paying for your tour. And it's so worth it. So, yeah.
Right.
Highly suggested. Go out into the field. Don't be armchair tourists.
Sell some of that Bitcoin if you have it. If you bought it when it was like $1, well, if you still got 100 of them, send one here, sell one, and let's go together with Hans and Timothy Hogan to, Egypt pyramids, experience the underground, the different.
We want to do this more now than ever, because a lot of these ancient sites are starting to change their rules and regulations, and sites like Machu Picchu, dare I say it, they want to do it as a virtual tour, because so many tourists go there a year. It's destroying the infrastructure of the ground. And there's talks of this as well with what's going on at Giza. They don't want to do tours inside of the pyramids anymore. It's all going to be virtual. And they started rolling this out with the new museum, where you go into the museum and they have these virtual walls that they've taken out of temples, and it's all projection mapping and animation of what was going on the wall. And you're just like, what are they pre-planning here?
That in school, and then everybody should be able to take a shovel and dig out part of the sand to
How
find
do you go
out
on the
what's
tour?
actually
Somebody's asking.
Right?
So I think it's Templar Tours at yahoo.com, or you go to HorusRising.com or chematology.com, chemitology.com, and you can find information on all the tours that they're doing in Egypt. They also team up with Brian Forrester, and they go to Peru, sometimes to Mexico. So yeah, it's an amazing group of people, and you'll learn so much. It's more exciting than television. Come on.
We gotta get Timothy Hogan on with us.
I'm trying. He's difficult to lock down. He's so busy, and he has kind of a hierarchy of the things that he wants to do. But
the hierarchy will be the monatomic gold. That's what.
This is the key. Yeah, no, I've put the feeler out there. Regardless, you should get Sean Mooney on your show to talk about like Longview, Washington, and all the symbology and the mapping there, as well as Tum Tum Mountain, because that's kind of his area of expertise, as well as the alchemical stuff. He was the one that suggested, I think you had a back and forth with him, because he's making alchemical properties with medical salves from, plant materials.
Oh, yes.
And so this is kind of where that alchemical conversation sparked, because it's like, I make RSO, and there's an alchemical process that goes into that. So it's like, yeah, you should definitely get him on your show, and I'll reach out to him as well and connect you guys. I think he'd be an interesting addition to your billful, your Rolodex there of all of us.
Definitely reach out. Let's make all of these happen. I'm sorry I have to run, but
you're all good.
Off work and I got to
Appreciate
go. But Appreciate you, Hans. Appreciate everybody, and we will hopefully be back again next week.
Likewise.
If
Thanks,
not,
guys.
I'll see you
Cheers.
again soon, and
Yeah.
love you all. Thank you. Ta-ta.
You crazy mother. Yeah. It's just BurnEye. BurnEye just like BurnEye.